Welcome one and welcome all to episode number 8 of Bard's Backlog. I am your host and moderator and good friend, Josh Gallegos. And joining me this week, Jared Benson.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for my absence last episode, but
Yes.
Josh did a fantastic, I think we can all agree Josh did a fantastic job of maintaining the standards that we here at Bard's Backlog wish to keep up while we do these podcasts, and I enjoyed it. I listened to it, man. You did a good job.
Well, thank you. I mean, it was definitely different and a little bit more, I don't know, like even felt stilted, at least for me, doing it all alonesies. I mean, I've gotten so used to your sultry voice on the other end of the phone, and not having that to encourage me on was a little tough, you know? And so I just had to soldier through. But yes, indeed, last time I was all alone, and we didn't even do a typical podcast as far as like going through a video game and everything. I kind of took my time with exploring other ideas that I had thought through before, and then also just making a bunch of announcements, like 25 minutes worth of announcements, which was quite a bit. And I know that was a bit much, but I'm glad that I crammed it all in because now I don't have to worry about that this week. Of course, Jared and I can be reached via Twitter. You guys can submit questions to us there. I'm at Video Game Bard, and Jared is at Jared T-Ben for our default segment or for the games that we'll be covering. And of course, this is Bard's Backlog, the ever-growing catalog of video games inducted into the Hall of Games. We are the gatekeepers and subsequent executioners of any video game candidate, including today's. And last time there was no video game candidate because I was all alonesies, like I said. But I'm just glad that you're here with me this week, Jared.
It's good to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how does it feel that it's already June?
Dude, this has been the longest slow year, the fastest slow year ever.
Like, fastest? Honestly. What do you mean by that?
I don't even know what I mean. Doesn't it feel like it was just January yesterday? Does it not feel like that? Man,
yeah.
You know what? Maybe it's because I live in Pensacola and the seasons aren't as, intense here. And to be honest, it still hasn't gotten super hot. The last couple of times I've gone to the beach, I've gotten there and arrived and it's been less than 80 degrees, so lower than 80 degrees. So it's been tremendous here, but it does feel like January was just yesterday for me. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this year has just been insane. I mean, I want to call it the year of the gut punch, at least for me.
I think
everything
that's
with COVID,
yeah.
And then just like everything else that happened with me earlier in the year, it has been a crazy, crazy ride. Yeah, and the fact that it's already June, like I felt like last time I checked it was April. And May just disappeared. Like, I don't even know where it went. Yeah. Which is okay. Like, I'm okay with things picking up because, goodness gracious, I don't know. Like, I definitely, like, towards the end of March and then going into April was just, like, fighting through everything that was going on. So this year has definitely been a lot. But I'm glad that it's halfway through. And I'm excited to see where the rest of the year goes. And I'm just ready for it to switch on a dime into something a little better. So, and I got plans, I've got things in motion to get that where it needs to be. So hopefully the rest of the year is a little bit better than it has been thus far. How have you been holding up this year?
I've been good. I was about to say, it's crazy to think that this time last year you were like 5 days away from getting married.
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
what's your anniversary?
It's the 7th of June.
That's right. So. Okay. Yeah, Jeremy's is the 2nd. That's who I was thinking of. But no, yours is a couple days, just a year later. But yeah. That's crazy.
Yep, we got some plans in the making for our anniversary, first year anniversary. So.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty fun. But yeah, I did get married a year ago, which is kind of crazy. There's been a lot that's happened in 1 year. And that's usually how it works, right? Like everything's kind of constantly moving. The wheel of time turns ever onward, and we're just kind of dragged behind it like medieval slaves.
Against our will.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about just reflecting on the year thus far, and really specifically with the COVID crisis, Jared, I just had one question I wanted to ask you, just to kind of kick things off for us here before we get into the video game stuff. Did you have any hobbies or habits that you kind of formed or took on during this pandemic? Something that, was out of the usual that maybe you're going to continue on as we go forward?
For sure. Actually, this is kind of something that I can mention a little bit in the Games We Playin segment, but one of the hobbies that I picked up is learning how to play guitar. So that's been...
Really?
Yeah, I was just like, you know what, man, I'm home all the time. I work with old people, or used to. I have a different job now, but I work with old people, and so like when I was not working, I was home, man. I was very good. I did not go out when I wasn't supposed to. I went to the grocery store. I wore a mask. I stayed away from people, all that stuff. It's difficult not to see your friends, especially for an extreme extrovert like myself. But yeah, I picked up guitar. I'm learning it. It's all right. It's going okay.
You're not musically minded already. Like
no, not like that.
You don't think so?
No, definitely not. I know so.
It been? So it's been a pretty good learning experience, though.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
I picked up guitar in high school for like 5 months and then totally dropped it. That's always been like one of the things I wanted to get back to, and just never have. So good on you, man. And then you said something about like just dieting through this whole thing. Like you've kept up a pretty good physique.
I wouldn't say physique, but I did go pretty extreme. So the beginning of the month of May, I was like, I cannot put on weight. I'll just lose a lot of progress, right, that I've made going to the gym. I was pretty faithful to the gym. And I was like, all right, I gotta diet. I gotta do something. So I did two things. I went carnivore, full carnivore, nothing but steak, beef products. So nothing but that for about 2.5 weeks of May. In addition to that, I did intermittent fasting with 1 meal a day. I would only eat 1 meal. I could eat as much as I wanted. So I'd have like 2 ribeye steaks a day, but it was only around like 5 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty intense. I noticed two things. Like 2.5 weeks in, I'm like, I don't like how this is making me feel. It was all the meat. There's a lot of fat to it because ribeye, like, it's got a fat. I tried other meats, but it was just bland. So it's not even that I didn't necessarily like enjoy it per se, because it's whatever. I enjoy steak, but I wasn't liking how it was making me feel. However, I did notice that intermittent fasting is fantastic. I love that. I actually really love it. So I'm still on that. I changed it up. Like today, I had chicken, rice, and a little bit of salad for my 1 meal today. But that was it. Still on the 1 meal a day, and I love it. I'm drinking tons of water, and it's working well. I haven't gained any weight despite being a couch potato a lot over COVID, and that's been it. So, yeah.
Sounds nice, because I've definitely gotten that quarantine bod going on. It's been fun for me. I don't think I've like formed anything specific other than like trying to read a lot more. That was like my big thing going into the quarantine, just taking my time with actually like sitting down and putting hours into reading, which I haven't done honestly since, through college you're reading, but not like in any way that was outside of, just whatever was in the textbooks. So I've been thoroughly enjoying going through lots of books. I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And I read a Wheel of Time series book, which is a fantasy book. And now I am going through Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, which is a thoroughly good read, and one that I highly recommend to anyone who, I guess if you're interested in classics, it's definitely up there. And it's not too long either. It's like 300 pages, I think, so no bigger than The Hobbit. It's so interesting. Like, he gets really into the philosophy of the guy and like how he thinks through like even just basic like parts of life, and then he ties that all into the whole crux of the thing is built around his murdering an old lady, and he just really gets into the mind of man in some really interesting and powerful ways, and just this interesting sense of morality that kind of permeates even someone who thinks that they're above morals and who thinks that they can pull something off and not feel guilty. And it's just an incredibly interesting read. So that's been my thing, just trying to keep up with that and then survive the rest of the quarantine madness. But definitely something I want to keep up, especially going into the summer and then going back into school. It's been nice to just have a couple hours at the end of the night and put that into reading. And it's not something I think people do as much anymore.
Right.
Like, it's just a lost art, especially for our generation. And like, so many people read far less than they used to. And when it is reading, it's a lot of like articles and stuff. Whereas, I don't know. I gotta like think that there's something about like an in-depth like book and something about like taking the time to go through these deeper thought processes that's well worth it. And so I don't know. I guess I just recommend it. And that's what I've been doing.
Getting a book with paper pages is like a luxury. I love it.
It is. It feels so nice. Like, I don't know. There's just like a feel to it. Yeah. And I actually switched to my Kindle halfway through on the Wheel of Time while I was reading that. And that's okay. And it's nice because I have access to it at work, so I read on my lunches as well. And I actually just do it through the Kindle app on my phone. So I just kind of pull up my phone and read there. But there's definitely something about a book that's just... It's that tactile feel, I guess. I don't know. But with that in mind, let's jump into the video game part of this video game podcast with the first segment, the Games We Playin. Jared, how much have you been playing recently?
Not a ton, to be honest with you. So I have, like, you'll see, I have two like small games. They're both small, and then that's about it. I've been playing Okami, a little bit of Animal Crossing here and there, a little bit of Smash Bros, kind of here and there. But I've been doing other things. I've been reading. I've been playing guitar. So as much as that kills our video game podcast, I haven't been playing a ton. So I feel like I've slim pickings this week. But both of the games are tremendous. But just two.
Yeah, tell me about this first one, Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Okay, this is cool because I was fooling around today and I was like, all right, I'm a little bored. I went to the Switch store and I was like, all right, let me find a little something here. So I found this, watched the trailer. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a neon prismatic masterpiece of symmetry and indie pop. You run or fly or drive along high energy tracks like Sonic the Hedgehog, but with a 3D twist that constantly manipulates the environment. So you're going up, down, the axes will switch so that you have to move your character up and down instead of left to right. The speed, the obstacles, you're in and out of things. Subtle pulses in your controller keep you constantly engaged, and the beat of the song that you're playing to keeps you in sync. It's a fantastic, fantastic game, and it's less than $10. I bought it today for $9.74. I've played through half of it. I love it. It's kind of like, I say indie pop because it's not really any songs that you're going to recognize, but they are like that constant, like sometimes you have to hit the button to get the timing right. Sometimes you have to move to the left or to the right to avoid an obstacle. Sometimes it's up and down, and it constantly switches throughout each run. The runs are short. They take you less than 4 minutes every time, constantly moving. The interface is gorgeous, and it's all bright neons. It's pinks and purples, light greens, light blues. I love it. It's like Tron with a femme fatale. It's fantastic. Nice. I love it.
I have heard of it before. It's a rhythm game.
Yes.
What is the, like, do you understand, like, maybe you're not far enough into it, but what is the, like, title? I always was curious because that just never clicked with what the game was itself, or is it just a title? I don't know.
What do you mean?
Like Sayonara Wild Hearts, what does that mean?
So essentially, it's a really cheesy intro. You got this sassy woman who's like, yeah, so eventually, the gods kind of got infiltrated by an evil, and they're kind of using tarot cards in their mysticism, I guess, and they use the shards of a broken heart to revive some woman who's going to save the universe, and then she rides a motorcycle and beats up baddies. So like, it's kind of cheesy, but the way you play the game and the art Oh, especially the art is amazing. So that's really where it is. I mean, it's cheesy, of course, but it's great. I really, really like it. Would
Sounds
recommend.
like there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on as far as artistically, for sure.
And it's short. I mean, you already said you're like halfway through, right?
Yeah, I looked at the progress bar. I'm pretty sure I'm halfway through already. I might have misread it, but I'm pretty sure I'm halfway through. So, I mean, it makes sense. It was only $10. You know, it's kind of like an upgraded mobile game, you know, but so much better. I wouldn't say it's as, like, I think in VR, it would be super intense, honestly, like super crazy. But it is a great game, so would highly recommend.
Nice little snack of a game, it sounds like. I have thought about getting it before. Is it on sale right now? Is that what led you towards it?
To be honest, no. It was just the art style itself. I was like, what is this thing, right? But no, and then I looked at it, and it was, you know, $9.74. I was like, oh, I have to get this. This is $10. This is like 2 lattes, you know? And there you go. Exactly. So I just grabbed it real quick, and yeah.
Cool. I have been playing a game that is not as vibrant as what it sounds like Sayonara Wild Hearts is. It's called Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Have you ever heard of this game, Jared?
No, tell me about it. What's up?
So this is an old game. I actually grew up with it. I remember getting it from Blockbuster back in the day. It's like one of those like in that era. Oh yeah, hardcore nostalgia. Yeah. And it was for the PlayStation 2. Me and my 3 brothers would just like, we'd rent a few games and we'd play them over the weekend. And I very specifically remember this one. Like, it stood out to me, and I saw it pop up on the Switch store in a remaster. And I was like, okay, I got to check this game out. Like, even just seeing the name Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, I know that probably means nothing to our audience, but it like immediately invoked all these like triggers of nostalgia in my brain, and I was like, I gotta check this out. It's an old game. It's kind of stilted. They really didn't do a whole lot with the remaster, so it's pretty much the same game as it was before. It's blocky. The dialogue is terrible. But it's a 3D platformer, collectathon, which was pretty big in that era. There was games like Tak and the Power of Juju, obviously like Ratchet and Clank, or like the Sly Cooper games. It was like in that realm of games, and it really just like has been a nice little treat on the side of everything else I've been playing. And it's totally like a 2000s game, and that's been like the best part of it for me, is just like reliving that era just a little bit. It's just been a real blast from the past, so I've been loving it.
Better times than
right. Simpler times indeed. And it's just funny how like specific sounds in the game or like sights like trigger just memories in my head and nostalgia so well. So on that front of it, it's been really fun to play, and it makes me like realize how old I am too. I don't know, like it's like making me face the reality of the fact that I'm in my 20s now, and like looking back on like this thing that I played as a kid that like, you know, I was so enthralled with at the time, and just thinking about how far I've come. I don't know, I've been getting very reflective as I played this.
Now this you have on here Assassin's Creed Origins. What has kept you coming back to this game?
Oh, Jared.
I'm apparently missing something big, man.
I don't know. It's just scratching the itch for me is what it is. Like,
gotcha.
Like I said, I picked it up right after I finished Control, and it has just slotted so perfectly into like what I want in life right now. So I'm still obsessed. I mean, I took all of last week, or the last time that we talked or I guess we didn't talk, it was when I was by myself, to just talk through Assassin's Creed because of this game. Like, it really just re-triggered the joy of open world games to me, and then also just like the joy of video games in general. Like, there's something about jumping into a digital world that's been so fully realized, and exploring it and getting all the little details in and interacting with it in fun little ways. And I don't really like get deep into games that often anymore, so this one has been a huge exception. And I did want to say, just a quick correction. I did say last time that it was set during when the Greeks were coming into Egypt, but that is not the case. It's actually when the Romans were coming into Egypt. So a few hundred years later. It was during the Roman Empire's expansion. Like Julius Caesar's in the game, obviously Cleopatra, like we talked about last time, and they're kind of like working together to fight Pompey and everything. So there's a lot of like that aspect of it, and there is some Greek heritage because Alexander the Great did come through, but it's just so cool how. And obviously, I'm a nerd for all this stuff, but it's just so cool how the game takes all these little cultures and shows what that world would have been like, or that part of the world would have been like at that time. And it's so true to its Egyptian roots too. Like there's a ton of mysticism and in-depth parts of their religion explained, and you can dive into the pyramids and like go see these ancient texts and things. It's just, I don't know. It's just been scratching the itch for me, man. And I have been loving it so much. And it is so freaking huge.
Yeah.
It is so big. Like each region is bursting with sites to discover and side quests to complete. So it's just taking me a ton of time. It's taking me a lot of time to get through, but I've been enjoying every minute. I've been playing that a ton. And then on top of that, I've also been playing at like breaks in my work and stuff an inordinate amount of Clash Royale, which is a fun little mobile game. So just wanted to do like a special nod to Clash Royale for a moment. Obviously, it's a simple game. It's just kind of like you start a match and then you fight the other person. But it's been a little bit of an addiction for me recently as well. So been doing that. And then you've also, Jared, been playing Jackbox 3.
So this is fun. Like I remember when Josh introduced Jackbox to me years ago, and because he's an early adopter type of a guy when it comes to games. So he had the Switch. Like what? Did you pre-order it before it came out?
I did not, but I did get it within the week that it came out, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you were on top of that thing, and I remember we had first at some point gotten together and played this party game where you kind of go on your phone and you log in. You need Wi-Fi or data or whatever, and you log into a website that is attached to this game. So you play through your phone onto the TV, and it's all about, there's a couple games on there, Faking It, Guespionage, there's a murder mystery thing, party, whatever, and then a game called Quiplash, where you use your phone, that's the one I was referring to, where you use your phone to type in answers to questions that come up on the screen, and it's a lot like the hilarity of Catchphrase, but with the anonymity of like you can put up a nickname and no one knows that it's your answer, and people take votes on what is the best answer, and then it's just hilarious. It's a riot. So I had some friends over Saturday night, and I showed them Quiplash, and so we are going to play that game. We're going to do a wing night. We're going to do Quiplash. It's going to be a great time.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it. So we played that a little bit, and it was fun, so I'm looking forward to the next time. That it's a great party game. So for anyone wondering, and there's multiple Jackboxes, so I'm saying Jackbox 3 because Josh is correct. Like that's the best out of all of them. So yeah, Jackbox 3, great party game. Would highly recommend that, and then specifically Quiplash for sure.
Yeah, Quiplash is definitely like the star of the show. Mm-hmm. The other ones, like each of the games comes with like 5 like quote unquote mini board games or whatever that you can play with groups. And they all vary in quality, so that's why I say 3. Like, I agree with you on that. Like, 3 is the one that, like, for sure you're gonna get bang for your buck in, and the other ones all have like variations on. Even like there's like Quiplash 2 and I think Jackbox 4.
Yeah.
And that one's a continuation of the fun. But yeah, those are fantastic games to have for groups. And you can play with up to like 8 people, I think. So even more than a typical console. Well worth the purchase, especially if that's what you use it for, or if you're interested in using a console for that sort of thing. So that has been the Games We Playin'. And let's go ahead and jump into our next segment, the default segment. Now, for the default segment this week, Jared, I have something a little different for you. Instead of talking through a topic or kind of having a conversation, I have a little bit of a game that I wanted to play with you. So, I have here with me a list of JRPG titles.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me whether the title, as I read it, is real or fake. If that's a real video game, or if it's a fake video game.
This is bullying. There's a reason they call me the casual. Like, this is bullying. I'm not gonna. All right, I'll do my best.
They have some whack titles. So and I have, I think, a list of 20 here for you. So we'll get through these, but I'll read it off, and then I just need you to make the decision, and then we'll count up and see how you do.
Okay.
All right, number 1, Trials of Mana.
How do you spell mana?
M-A-N-A.
Oh, that's fake.
Fake?
Yeah.
That is real, actually.
Here we go. Oh, man.
The start. All right, second. Wishes of Mine Sublime.
That's fake.
That one's definitely fake. Good job.
Are you coming up with the fake answers?
Yeah, all of them are ones that I made up.
Oh,
so
okay. All right.
Hopefully that'll give you a bit of an edge, and you can get kind of guess based on that. Tales of Vesperia.
That's real.
You are correct. That is a real one. Right Side of Mystery 2.
That is a real one.
Nope, that one is fake.
Oh.
That is a fake one.
Jeez.
All right. So far, you're 50-50. So
so far, I'm failing.
Doing pretty good. Xenogears.
No, Xenoblade is a game, but Xenogears is fake.
Actually, you are incorrect.
What? What is Xenogears?
Yeah, it's a old JRPG. Actually, I think it's made by the same people that made Xenoblade.
Oh, this is why I'm the casual. Here we go.
All right. Boot Hill Bounties.
I think that one's real.
That one is real. You are correct.
All right.
It's a JRPG set in like a Western aesthetic.
Okay.
So
it sounded like it, yeah.
Slapstick Princess.
Oh, that one's fake.
You're right.
Okay.
That is one that I made up. All right. Jerry's Last Stand, A Journey in the Forest.
I think that one's fake. I feel like you would come up with that.
Yeah, that one's fake. I had
really? Oh, shoot.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. Jerry, I was kind of doing a little reference to you in that, so Jerry's Last Stand. No one calls you Jerry. I'm probably the only one that's ever.
People at Starbucks write my name Jerry on my lattes, but it's because I don't emphasize the D enough, I guess.
Makes sense. All right. Dragon Slayer, The Legend of Heroes.
I think that one's real.
That one is real.
Okay.
Good. See, you're doing well. For this being like you get one shot and you can do it. It's like a flip of a coin for you. You're doing a pretty good job. Octopath Traveler.
I think that one's real.
You're right. That one is absolutely real. Oh. And probably a game we'll cover at some point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Bravely Default.
I think that one's fake.
That one is real.
Whoa!
So, I know, really weird name.
Yeah, it is awkward wording. Yeah.
Bravely Default. It doesn't, like, convey anything.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
This is vague terms here.
All right. Mario and Luigi, Night of Waluigi.
That's real. Question mark?
Fake.
No, shoot. It's not even just that I feel like in my head an image popped of Waluigi, but I guess that doesn't really make sense. They've made Wario games, but
no. Waluigi has in fact only been in party games for Mario.
Really?
He's never as far as I know anyway, he's never appeared in one of their games. But the Mario and Luigi series is a real series, so I was curious if that would throw you off or not.
You got me.
You bit the bullet. Push Push.
That's it? That's all you're giving me?
That's the title. Push Push.
That one's real.
That is fake.
What? So you're just throwing random verbs together?
Hey, some of these, like Bravely Default, that one is a real title.
That's
true.
That's true. That's true.
Shin Megami Tensei.
Real.
That one is real.
Okay.
Absolutely correct. Atelier Ayesha, The Alchemist of Dust.
That one's real.
That one is also real. How'd you know that?
I'm not going to say.
Breath of Fire 92.
Fake.
Very fake, yes. There is a Breath of Fire, and I think there has like 6 titles in the series, but not a 92. So I was curious if that would throw you off or not. Actually, when I wrote it, I was thinking like the 92nd in the series, but now that I'm reading it, it kind of comes off like the year 1992.
Yeah.
But good job. All right, Final Fantasy, Crystal Chronicles, Ring of Fates.
That one's fake. You switched some words in there.
That one is real.
Oh, I figured you would have given me a Final Fantasy, but switched like some of the words in the title. Okay, all right.
I thought about it, but that one is actually an actual title that came out.
Okay.
One of the Crystal Chronicles. I think there's only 2 of those games in that specific series. All right, a few more, then we're done. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
That one's real.
That one is real.
Yep.
Kingdom Hearts 4.
Have they made 4? Fake.
That is fake.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh!
I thought I was going to get you with that one. Good job. Good job. Mother 3.
Can you hear me flipping the coin? That one's fake.
That one is real.
Ah.
And that is the final one. All right, let's tally up how you did here. You got 9 wrong and 11 correct.
Oh, man.
So,
it sounds like my final exam grades in college.
It's like, oh, is it A? Is it C?
That's a D-, bro. An F by some standards.
All right. Wow. Good job. All things considered, I feel like you were able to sniff out the weird ones and give us a solid run there. So good job, Jared.
That's why they
especially
call me
for
the
putting you
casual.
on the spot like that.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, that is the end of the default segment for us this week. Let's go ahead and go into our final segment for this week, and that is where we get into the pick of the week, which is Okami HD. Originally released April 20th, 2006 on the PS2, Okami is an adventure game that's stuffed full of Japanese folklore. Now, I picked this game specifically because it's often brought up in conversation about video games as an art form thanks to the full commitment to its beautiful art style.
Yes.
Reflected in the rendition of Nippon, Japan, and its fantastical characters. So, Jared, what did you think of Okami?
So, I mean, you have this game that, upon further research, seems to be a conglomeration of ideas that were inspired by other titles.
Yes, absolutely.
So after a second look, that's what you realize. Upon first impression, of course, everything that you just said just stands out. It pops. The cell shading, the artwork, the style of the game, certainly unique. I've never played as a dog protagonist or white wolf, whatever you want to say. That's unique. Kind of trying to take the old style Japanese art, like the paintings that they had done, you think of like Land of the Rising Sun truly stands out in your mind as you play through this game. It's all about the art style. And to be honest, it's kind of, that's it. on first impression, first playthrough, because you're immediately struck, if you're a gamer, out how easy the game is. To be honest, they kind of hold your hand a little bit through things, and while I haven't finished it, that doesn't change. They hold your hand throughout the whole game as well. So those were my first impressions. That it's a little easier than I anticipated. It's definitely all about the art and kind of recreating an ancient, maybe feudal style Japan, land of the samurai, that kind of thing, and unique for sure.
Were you struck by the art style, like even just going into it? Like, was it,
of course,
more than what you expected?
Of course. No, when you first gave me like a list of options, here are the titles that we could play, and I looked into Okami, I was like, oh, this one. It's beautiful. It's absolutely breathtaking.
It is. And that's probably like the biggest draw of the game. They went for, like you said, a watercolor aesthetic, and the color palette is just vast and vibrant, and they somehow make each of the different parts of Nippon, which is what they call Japan the entire time, which I think is just the native term for it, if I'm not mistaken. They make them all distinct within the art style, but still keep it all looking like, if you just took a quick picture of the screen while you're playing, just like a freeze frame of what was going on, it would look like a watercolor painting. And it goes all the way down to the character models, the in-game items themselves. It's really just striking, and it really is what steals the show, I would say. Absolutely.
It's interesting too, because as you look at some of the characters, some of where you're playing a video game, there's going to be moving parts, but the art style, it's as if it was truly a painting, because some of the lines, as far as like the outline of the characters, you have thicker strokes, if that makes sense. Like some of the characters, like the left side of their face, like the dark side of their face, is going to have a thicker boundary line. I'm obviously lacking for technical terms, than the other side. And you kind of notice it, and it definitely makes it feel as if it was lovingly painted in, And so for sure you can tell that it was, a PS2 game. Like that's a distinct look to it. You have graphical inconsistencies, but and like not hard edges. They kind of like, it kind of looks like an older game. But
all the characters are kind of blocky. I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody has a mouth is something I noticed. And like all the characters, like very specifically, and the items themselves, they're kind of like, if you didn't have the sharp edges, the black that's put on everything to kind of like make it all stand out, it would look a lot less impressive than it does.
I agree. Yeah.
And that, sorry, I did cut you off. What were you
saying?
No,
you're fine. It doesn't play like an old game. It plays very smoothly, in my opinion. Now, we can get into some of the, like, how you play the game. I think some of it's a little clunky. But when I say, like, it reminds me of an old game, it's only in close-ups and some of the dialogue scenes, like in the art style, but that course that does not take away from the original idea, the idea that it's a painting looking type of art style, and it is very beautiful.
Absolutely. And that is definitely where the game shines through. Now, the story is really fun, I would say. It's not the biggest draw, and it's a pretty simple, just like quest that you're going on.
Right.
You play as a wolf, which you pointed out, a wolf goddess, the goddess of the sun, Amaterasu, I think is how you pronounce it. And she's saving Japan from the evil 8-headed serpent Orochi, which is like tied into all this like 100 years ago lore, that's going on in the world or whatever. And a lot of it, like looking into it a little bit more, is kind of just Japanese folklore that's adapted for the game. But they really like take those building blocks, those kind of like basic elements of, a god saving the country and going on a quest to do so, and they pull out a lot of charm, I would say. And the characters are a lot of fun. Specifically, the character that I would say really, as you play through the game, has a full arc and who is there from the beginning and pops up quite a bit through the story is Susano. What did you think of him in your amount of time that you played in the game?
I thought a good addendum. You kind of, when you first meet Amaterasu, I like saying it that way. That was the first way you said it. But when you first meet the original character, obviously the dog doesn't talk. So, right. I mean, that's that. But still, like, the mannerisms of the dog itself, like, it'll lie down while a character's talking to it and kind of nod off. And it'll also, like, it's very chill, to be honest with you. It's kind of like a god who's ultimately confident in its abilities, but is still kind of figuring things out, but is like, all right, it's fine, it'll chill. And I think that plays nicely against Susanoo, who is, coming into his own, who has a lot of insecurities, who considers himself a warrior, but definitely doesn't have the clout to back it up. So I think that's kind of a cool back and forth that they have there. I like that. The god kind of makes up for his shortcomings, Amaterasu. So I thought that was cool. I can agree with you for sure.
They have an interesting rapport because Amaterasu does a lot of helping him out,
right,
and saving him from what would be embarrassing situations.
Yeah,
and so I don't know. I just really like that dynamic, and he definitely comes into his own throughout the game. And you're playing as obviously the hero and the person who's going to solve everything. And you are just a wolf who, like you said, doesn't talk. So there's something there that is just simple that just works, I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you. In the same way that Link works as a character that doesn't speak. You kind of get a vibe. You get a vibe. And then the rest, the mind of the character is left to be filled in by you. So... for sure.
Yeah, and then they do have her little buddy that's hopping around, the tiny little artist whose name is escaping me. Isun. I think it's Isun.
Yeah.
Who does all the talking.
Yep.
So obviously you're getting your narrative bits there and any sort of moving on to the next thing. All of that's built into the character of Isun so that Ami, which is what Isun calls Amaterasu, can just be the wolf who's just running around.
Right.
What did you think of the story overall from what you got into it?
So very, very straightforward. Save the world from darkness, that kind of thing. And again, where the game is going to stand out is what the creators originally wanted for that. Now, if you go back to the creator whose name is escaping me, I should have written it down, of course, but he openly admits that he was inspired by Zelda. What's the one that looks cartoonish? That it's not. It's got
Wind Waker?
Wind Waker, yes. Zelda Wind Waker that has that cartoonish look. He said he was inspired by that, for sure. And that kind of playthrough. So he tried to create a wide Japanese world, the land of Nippon. And it is a big map, for sure.
Yeah.
You have a lot of exploring that you're allowed to do and can do. And so, when you first get into it and you open up your menu and you see all of the different tabs on your menu to complete and do these things, I'm like, whoa, there's going to be a lot to this game as far as, little things here and there, scrolls, ancient, sake and ancient treats and cherry pies and ninja grandmas and stuff. There's just going to be, a lot. And you can see the inspiration of the Zelda series for sure as it shines through. And I think what the creators did was take their original idea, which was a game inspired by nature and a white wolf. They had released a trailer years ago, I think a couple years before they actually released the game, and it didn't really take. But when they change up the design of the wolf, who's covered in kind of these orange tattoos and very unique and goddess-like looking,
right?
They create their own vibe, and you can't help but appreciate the artistic creativity that comes with how they decide to do the game
and the commitment to it,
all the way.
100% of the way, and it just works. And that's probably the most impressive part of the game for sure. I found it pretty funny, lighthearted humor, just fun little beats here and there that really just keep the game moving at a clip. I think the story would be pretty boring without those little beats built into it.
I agree. It doesn't really take itself too seriously.
It doesn't. No.
They're like, this is what we're good at. We're going to demonstrate to you a game with the true inspiration that we wanted you to get from it. And then kind of with things that were, I guess I'll, air quotes, weaker, dialogue, character, maybe a little bit of plot here and there, we're just going to kind of chill and, not take ourselves too seriously. So, no, I like the whole vibe that the game gives, for sure.
It works all really well together.
Yeah.
And that is tied into the gameplay.
Yep.
Just being fluid, like you said. Like, it feels good to play, and it's really fun just to run around. And, like, I love the little touches, like having a field of flowers kind of, like, appear behind you as Amy runs is just, like, a really cool effect, and just gives the whole game a sense of peaceful, like, I don't know, just a sense of peace that works really well just all together. And the gameplay itself is a mix of action, there's some platforming, there's a little bit of puzzle solving, and it really does just kind of take all these ideas from Zelda.
Yes, right.
There's dungeons, but they're pretty simple.
Yeah.
There's boss fights, and they're even simpler. And that really isn't where the game is at its best.
Yeah.
But it all works. Like, it all works to keep, like, the cohesion of the story and the cohesion of the art style and everything else just moving forward.
What did you think of how easy the game was?
It is very repetitive after a while.
Yeah.
I definitely started to feel it even at the 20-hour mark, which is about where I got in the game. It's a lot of button mashing, like the combat itself. So like when you come across an enemy, which often takes the place of like these demons that the rest of the world can't see.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool. Like every time you meet a new character, it shows like an art version of them, and it's like this really cool like painting or whatever. But when you come across them, like a lot of them look cooler than it actually is to fight them.
Yeah.
And when you end up fighting, a lot of it is just button mashing. You have one combat attack, the Y button, and you're just pressing that over and over and over until they break or give you an opportunity to use your celestial brush.
Right.
To kind of like smack at them. So that part of it, like honestly, after a while, I kind of wanted to just avoid combat altogether because I was just enjoying the exploration side of it enough, and it did feel more like a chore.
Yeah.
As it goes along, it's just kind of generic, I would say.
Yeah.
Though the celestial brush does kind of add a layer of, at least, I don't know.
No, that's unique. I don't think I can compare it to anything else. Like that's definitely unique to this game.
Yes, and that's like I like that they give you that. Like it really does tie into the whole idea of the art style, like, and the fact that she is a god with powers.
Go ahead and explain what the brush does.
So the celestial brush is what is, like what all of Amy's powers are built into.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be like this brush from the gods, and you go through the game meeting other gods, which is a lot of fun. I liked meeting all the other gods and kind of like seeing the different animals that held brush techniques. And as they give you techniques, they unlock different aspects of the brush. And a lot of it's kind of built into like nature. So you do like a swirl to make the wind blow, or you do a line from the water, and it'll like make a water stream, and stuff like that. And it's an interesting thing that's super unique to this game, where you kind of freeze the entire frame, and then you draw. Like you just take the time to draw.
Yeah. The screen switches to like kind of a scroll looking like thing, again sucking you into that ancient looking Japan style.
Right, and then you can just draw on it, which is a lot of fun. Like, and it's used in a lot of different ways. Like you use it in puzzles to kind of solve different parts of the dungeons, or if you're coming across something in the world that needs to be solved. Like there's a specific side mission that I'm thinking of where you have to like create a bomb, and you don't know it until you recognize, oh wait, I need to use my celestial brush for this. And then when you use the bomb, obviously you solve the puzzle or whatever that side mission was. And you can also use it in combat to fight, mostly through slashes. You just draw one line and it slashes through enemies, but it adds a nice little layer to the game that keeps it from being even more monotonous, I would say.
Yeah.
And definitely ties into the art in a really cool way.
I mean, if you were to sell the game to me by saying, hey, you're going to be able to play as the goddess White Wolf of ancient Japan who can paint the literal sun in the sky, the streams through nature, ancient pyrotechnic explosives, and slash her enemies with the swipe of a celestial brush, I'd think, that's awesome. And then you sit down and you play it, and it's a little gimmicky, to be honest.
It is. That is the perfect word for it. It is gimmicky. And it works. Like, it totally works fine. And it does, I would say, give gameplay its spice, but it does kind of become a background thing and loses the luster. I got the first couple hours, it's fun, like tons of fun to be like, ooh, what can I draw on, or what kind of things can I do with this thing? And as you get more stuff, obviously you get more options to use, but they don't ever become something, like, they don't ever capture the joy, I think, that was like the initial discovery of the brush, and it doesn't really build on itself in any super exciting ways, but at the same time it is what makes this game kind of unique. And the pacing of it, I would say, is pretty good. Like, you get a lot of new abilities as it goes along, and it kind of works pretty well with the story. Obviously, you're freeing the world of Japan from darkness, so as you free the gods, and they'll give you a technique, and so it works pretty well, like, with the story and everything. But yeah, I don't think it's really anything to write home about. And that's even with the motion controls. Did you happen to try those out at all?
I didn't. I probably should have. I just left it on the controller. I didn't even think about it. I probably should have.
I would say they're not, like, it was kind of off. Like, I wasn't able to be as accurate with it as I wanted to be when I was using it with motion controls. So, and it was a cool idea. Like, as soon as I realized that you could play it with motion controls, I was like, oh yeah, let's try that out. But it didn't quite work, and I think that might honestly be like the Switch's fault.
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah.
They don't have the most, like, in tune motion controls. Like, the Wii had a lot more, like, and obviously it was built for that. Like, they had the Wii sensor and everything for it. I'm sure it worked a little bit better on that platform, but here it's just kind of, I don't know. It definitely wasn't the way to do it. You could get a lot more control over the brush by doing it just with your controller. Yeah. And it felt totally fine to use. Like, it doesn't, like, that was the other thing. At first, it's kind of weird, like, trying to use it and getting used to, like, freezing the frame and then drawing what you need to draw. But after a while, it does kind of become second nature and intuitive. And it works pretty well.
Yeah.
But
I would say that the game surprisingly doesn't play like an old game. Now, perhaps I'm forgetting, my playthroughs of old games, but the game came out in 2006. So, I've obviously been updated, but, like, the Switch version does not play, although it looks like at times, as I had mentioned earlier, it looks like at times like an old game, but it doesn't play like one. Controlling Amy is very easy and very fluid, and very enjoyable to do, to run through these different areas and explore and look and enjoy the scenery and the different things. It definitely feels it's a very fluid game. Wall jumping, even just freeze framing, drawing the quick little bomb circle and stuff, and then moving on, or a slash or whatever, does feel fluid. I was the same way. I started to feel like I wanted to avoid combat, like you said earlier, but I don't have a problem with the way the game feels, for sure.
Yeah, and the animations are very impressive. I would say that they have stood the test of time. They're very smooth, and that adds to just the fluidness of the entire game. But especially in battle, just it looks and feels the way it should, and that's good. I mean, comparing it to the Tasmanian Tiger, which is, I think, a game that came out around the same time as this one, like, it's night and day how those games have aged, even in just the animations themselves. And so I am, like, very impressed that it has held up the way it has for so long. But yeah, I guess I would just say, like, altogether, the gameplay isn't what's drawing people to this game, I would say. Like, it's simple overall. It's very simple, and really the beauty of the game is in the art style and is in the sense of just like peace that the game gives is really where I would say this game shines.
Yeah.
And it's fun to like I said, like meet new characters. It's fun to kind of like do little things, like be a god to these people too in like little ways. Like you are often taking care of nature throughout the game and making like trees bloom and taking care of the animals around you, and doing little things like that is just cool. And the game pulls them off pretty well.
Some of the appeal of a game that's 50 hours long is something that you can, I don't know, like you want a game to suck you in so violently that you're like slamming through it, staying up to the end, the 4 a.m. in the morning, trying to play this game, trying to beat this game because it's so quick, it's so paced. It's paced to be that way, violently fast. This game is not like that. And certainly it tells you that as soon as you open the game and there's like a 6-minute intro scene.
Right.
I found myself skipping scenes, trying to find the skip button for a lot of the stuff. I was like, okay,
yeah.
Here where we're going. But it certainly is more of a take your time adventure. And that's okay. It's just slower than probably what you're used to.
Would you say it kind of feels like it's meandering, like it kind of gets a little too slow at times?
Yeah, and just part of that is because some characters are more verbose than they need to be. Like
absolutely
you have to, true. When you first get into the game, this is demonstrated early on, that you talk to some characters and you have to talk to them like 2 or 3 times to get them to say what you need them to say. It's like you don't do that unless there's a reason that you'd stop. You know what I'm saying? Like get to the point, So I found that a little tiring at times, but meandering is the word.
Yeah, and it's not like the characters are saying anything like mind-blowingly good or like something worth reading all this text for. So
the way of the path is to invest in Amazon. Like it's not like they're giving you life advice,
Yeah. So this game is definitely a product of that time. Like you are not going to get a game like this in this day and age, although I would love to see what they could do, like really trying to focus on improving the combat, like putting a little bit more time and effort into the side quests and stuff. And because the base of it, like the ideas that are here are so like cool, and beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful game.
Totally agree.
Like I would love to be like in this world on a modern day console with all the bells and whistles that you could put into it at this point in time,
Can you imagine if the graphics were tightened up just a little bit? The art could stay as it is. It's great. It's unique. The art could stay as it was. You get a little bit more immersive gameplay, a little bit more creativity into how you can use the celestial brush, because they make it very obvious what you're supposed to do at each of these little locations. So it's kind of like maybe a little bit more creativity, maybe a little bit more, kind of like Breath of the Wild, where you had to go searching for the Korok seed instead of like it just comes to you. So, stuff like that, definitely agree with you. On a modern day console, just tighten it up a little bit, maybe, add some depth, and I would play it through and probably get sucked into it and want to pour hours and hours and hours and hours into it.
Yeah. And and that's not to take away from what this game is.
For sure.
For being a 2006 game that really does invoke Zelda in a lot of really cool and fun ways, and then just looks the way it looks, like this is a really awesome, well-rounded package that is existent on modern consoles now that you can go and get and try out for yourself. But the question I'd like to pose is, Jared, is this a title better left in the past? Or do you think it's worth taking the time to play through today?
As much as I hate to say it, like, unless you're doing what we're doing and, looking for, the old classics to talk about, to discuss, to digest and enjoy, leave it in the past, to be honest with you. That's just my take, but yeah. Yeah,
no, I agree. It's something that if you're not a huge video game like aficionado, someone who loves these things and wants to explore everything that the industry has produced over the past couple decades, like this is one that maybe you could skip. And with that, like, being said, I would say it probably is the first title in a few episodes that I would say doesn't need to go into our Hall of Games.
I can agree with you. If they were to remaster it in a couple years and kind of upgrade it a little bit, or if we were doing this podcast, however many years ago, back when it originally came out, it might have been a different discussion. But you also have to ask the question: is it too much of a Zelda ripoff? How much? Certainly inspired by, but did you do the work to create engaging mechanics? And I think the answer is no. You just didn't stand out quite enough. So, I mean, my answer to that question is no. I don't think it should go into the Hall of Games. But what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so either. But it's an interesting thing because I don't think there's like a whole lot that this specific game needs to improve. I think it's just a well-rounded package, and that's tied into the simplicity of the story, the beauty of its art style, but it just is that. Like, it's more of like something that I think is neat to look back on and not so much to experience today. If you were to take the concepts, like I said, and put them in a modern game with updated combat, with a lot more like focus on like the writing and giving you a little bit more of a streamlined experience that maybe cut out some of the fat as well, because it is like a 35-hour game. Like, it's not small by any stretch, and it's really like I think those parts of it that are holding it back. Like, if you were to take all those things, kind of streamline it a little bit and enhance the graphics just a smidge, because it already does look quite beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. It could be a timeless classic, but it's just right on the cusp of that. I do think it's a fun like playthrough, and definitely enjoyable if you're into Zelda likes. If you like that kind of gameplay, this is right up your alley. But I really don't think it stands on four legs. That
was funny. I can't disagree with you. I would add just one more note, and that's just that the shoot, I lost my thought. Hold on, where is it? It's floating over there. I lost my thought. That's
you got this. I believe in you.
Oh, okay. No, if you're going to play a game this long, and it does arc, it has multiple different arcs. You fight Orochi, the multi-headed dragon, eventually in the game, and then it continues. They give you more content. You fight other bosses later on. A whole host of creative bosses, beautifully done, but you can't expect someone to play 50 hours with clunky gameplay like this.
Right.
It just does drag, and you're like, as fluid as it is to run around, and that's enjoyable, and the art and all that stuff, those little touches, it just doesn't. It's not fun to do the combat, and it's too easy. So it definitely would have to update that for me to drag through 50 hours of it.
Drag. That's probably the word that definitely fits. Like, just the way.
Yeah.
It's definitely an overstuffed game.
As it is now, it drags. Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yet another pass in the Hall of Games for us with Okami HD. But still a really cool game in its own right. And hopefully someday we do see a sequel. I think there was one on the DS, but I'm pretty sure that one was even worse than this game. So I would not. And the DS is definitely an aged console at this point. Like,
right.
It's kind of hard to go back to for sure. So,
especially with the Switch Lite now.
Right.
Like, why would you buy a DS when you can have the Switch Lite?
Exactly. Where could you go wrong with the Switch Lite? So that is Okami HD. And with that in mind, we have reached the end of yet another Bard's Backlog. Thank you all for listening. Jared and I will be back in a couple weeks with another title, one that we have not discussed yet, because we kind of got thrown off with not meeting last time, and we'll have to figure out exactly what that is. If you guys are like curious to see us check out specific titles, you can always reach out to us on Twitter, like we said at the top. And I actually had a specific game suggested to me by one of our audience members, but I don't think we're gonna go with it. So it's like an old PC game that really just I don't think has any shot at being put into the Hall of Games. Sure. So.
And once Josh and I get to it, we will be doing Animal Crossing. But for now, we're just plugging away, trying to build up our villages. But it's coming. I'm excited.
Yes. Well, I mean, Jared, are there any games that you would be interested in tackling? Just like maybe one that you were curious about even before this? Or
Xenoblade
like
Chronicles.
Xenoblade Chronicles, really?
I'm not playing through it now, but yeah, definitely. I as I keep going through the Nintendo eShop, it keeps coming up in my mind. Hey, maybe we should try this game. I'll probably be more likely to go buy it from the store than the Nintendo store, to be honest, just because I have a lot of like saved games that download, they take up space and stuff. But yeah, I'll probably go buy it from like Walmart.
Do you not have like an SD card, like a big one?
What do you mean?
Like you got to get like a 256 gigabyte SD card for the Switch, and then you can just have the billions of games that I have, dude.
Well, I haven't leveled up yet, but getting there.
Well, I would highly recommend it. And for Xenoblade, I mean, I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into with that game, but I am so down to check that one out.
All right, well, maybe I want to back off the decision now.
Well, we will have to figure that out, and we'll see what that is next time. But this has been Bard's Backlog. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you all next time.